we have a situation now with obviously the hostage situation. It's a very, very rough deal. I mean, they do not, the Israeli government does not ask the rabbis what to do, but it does not sound like it's really the right thing to do. There is a discussion in the Talmud about this. And there's a real danger of what's going on because you're essentially, God forbid, but you are encouraging the terrorist activities. You're encouraging them to, God forbid, to kidnap more people. Besides the fact that people that they are giving, returning the terrorists, these are terrorists, these aren't hostages. The terrorists are go out and they do more terrorism, and they're not repented people. So it's a very, very difficult situation, and as I said last time, although I think it's misplaced, I certainly understand the desire to obviously bring our people back. But that's one thing that's happening in the world. Yeah.
Rabbi, I hear that Hamas is touting this as a win.
Of course they're going to, yes. Yes, they will. They're touting it as a win, and of course they will, because you remember, we're dealing with a terrorist organization. They're terrorists. So essentially, what they were allowed to do was to go and to wreak havoc, and then get a deal, and they don't care how many people in their people are killed. You have to understand that. It's the craziest thing. They really don't. For them, the more people that get killed, the better it is. The more that they have the world sympathy. So they're touting as a victory the fact that the Jews are then giving in to release their killers. So they are touting as a victory, and that's the way they're going to see it. So I don't know. It doesn't sound like the right deal to do. It doesn't sound like it's the proper approach. I certainly understand the situation and why people feel they want to do this, but it does not sound like the right thing, unless there's something happening behind the scenes. But I doubt it, because again, in my critique of the Israeli government has always been that they're trying to function according to the rules that people make up for them, which we don't accept. Turn the other cheek is not a Jewish concept. And the funniest thing about it is that nobody does it except they want the Jews to do it. Not as a Christian concept. Jewish concept, if someone comes to kill you, then you are supposed to kill them first. That's what they come to kill you. That's self-defense. And for some reason, I know why, but the Israeli government, which is not on the whole, a religious government, wants to present themselves as if they are the ultimate moral standard of the secular world, which has a messed up standard, and they don't have that standard for themselves. No one does that. Anyone, if it was an American, if this was happening, if they were dropping thousands of bombs, it was good what Trump said. I don't know. I hope there was something more to this arrangement. But yeah, once people were taken captives, they would have all hell would have broken loose. And instead, they've been dealing with these people and talking with them and navigating it. So again, it's unfortunate. It's very difficult. Let's talk about it on the positive. I'm just opening some topics to your questions, but basically, as I said to you before, I do hope that the inauguration of President Trump is a good sign in the world. I do think it is. I think it is a statement of getting the world back to some kind of common sense. I don't. Again, this is not that I believe. This is the our savior or this or that. I don't believe that in any way, shape, or form. But the world has been out of control, and the fact that Hashem has given us a leader of the free world who has has the common sense to deal with this. This could be hopefully a ushering in of a better time that is divinely ordained, as we see that's happened before with Cyrus. I mentioned to you before, it's an amazing thing, but it's one of the reasons why we distinguish between the first temple and second temple. The first temple, which is built by Solomon, has a different level of holiness. There were certain things in the first temple that did not exist in the second temple. The ark was there. The ark was hidden by the time the second temple came around. There were various miracles that happened every day in the first temple. And the Talmud lists, there were 5 things that were missing in the second temple. And some of them are very noteworthy. Prophecy did not exist in the second temple. The beginning of the second temple it existed, but that ends really as the ushering in second temple time. And one of the reasons why this happens, which is relevant to our discussion, is by the fact that the Jews returned to the land of Israel through the proclamation of Cyrus, the Persian. So therefore, that means that God's revelation is concealed. It shouldn't be happening through, a person, a king deciding go back. And it's not. It's God running the show. But what happens is that sometimes God runs the show in a concealed way. And therefore, that itself is a lacking in terms of the stage of where the world is at. So, I said to you, my brother's opinion is like, he would say, nah, we're moving to the third temple. And therefore, do we need this to come through any political means? Because there are those that will say, and there are those that do say this, as far as even in Jewish law, there are those that say, that no, we don't have to go and do the process of building the temple. It's going to happen. God's going to make it happen miraculously. And there are those that say that's not the case, because even though that could happen, but if we don't merit it, then it happens through the world of nature. Now, the world of nature, as we said many times, is not an independent entity. It is God running the world of nature through his processes. But that's a concealment of God. That means that people can think, no, it happened through political things. It happened through this or that. It's a very fascinating thing, because we're in the Torah portion of the Jews being in Egypt. And it's really fascinating how, God sends Moshe to ask Pharaoh to let the Jews go. And the question arises, well, why did God do that? He didn't need Pharaoh's permission. Right? In the end, what he did was he made 10 plagues and destroyed Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh had to, say, go, and they chased us out. But why was it that way in the beginning? And it's a very famous question. A lot of different depths to this answer. But I'll explain to you a couple of them. First of all, the story of coming out of Egypt is God presenting his calling card, so to speak. Right? Because people ask me today, say, I don't understand. In biblical times, God did these miracles. Why don't we see miracles today? It's a fair question, right? The answer is because the point of the world is not supernatural miracles. When there's supernatural miracles, then any person with any logic, any common sense will see it's God running the show. The trick and the job of human beings in the world is to see God in the concealed miracles, to see the things that happen in your life. Every single person, if they look in their lives, could see, well, why did this happen to me? Why did that happen to me? I met this person, I met that person. And they could choose to see God in their lives or not. That's the purpose of life, is that we find God. Because then we're doing something. If God revealed himself so obviously, which will happen in times of Mashiach, then the whole world's in a new dimension, which will lack a certain amount of free will. Right? Think about it a second. Well, let me answer a question. There are people who smoke cigarettes. Okay, I'm not going to make a comment about this, that. But a person who smokes cigarettes, if a person picked up a cigarette, put it in his mouth, and he dropped dead that second, how long would it take for people to stop smoking? Immediately. Well, no one's going to smoke because they see the results. It's like, it's. But what happens is that the negative effects are over time. Not everybody has, there are people who smoke till they're 100 years old. So not everyone gets them. So you could delude yourself that it's okay. Same thing. If a person did something negative, and immediately someone broke the 7 Noahide laws, or a Jew broke the 13 commandments, and on the spot, a lightning bolt came out from the sky and fried them. How long would it take till human beings always did the right thing? It'd be immediate. But then what did you do you're not doing anything. You're a robot. You're essentially a non-free willed person because you live in a world of such clarity, you can't do anything other. That's not the point in the world. So when God reveals himself in Egypt, that is God presenting to the world that there is a creator of the world. There is a omnipotent creator who can do whatever he wants in the world. And the third thing you can see is that God is involved in the world because the ancients, like the Greeks, for example, believed there was a God. But they said, why does God care about what's happening in the world? When God comes and redeems a nation, and it's obvious. So that is a statement that God cares what happens to the individual, to the world. So all of these things were revealed at the Exodus of Egypt. And I want you to understand this because it's amazing because it was revealed to everyone. You see, right now people will people are so ignorant, they don't know anything. But people read the Torah and they're like, oh wow, but everyone's pretty much heard it. Everyone knows this. And you have to understand something. These are not things that you can make up. Because things that happen historically that are on such a grand level, they're not passed down if they're made up. If a person, let me explain this to you a little bit here. This is a very important concept. When I'll say from the Jewish perspective, we had the revelation at Mount Sinai. Okay, where God spoke to an entire nation. Okay, now I want you to imagine for a second that if that didn't happen, which of course it did, but the Chasam said it didn't happen. And now Moses would give the book to the Jews, the Torah, which describes all of the Jews, 600,000 army-aged males, which is about 3 million people, all hearing God speak. So if that didn't happen, every person would say, what are you talking about? This didn't happen. Now, maybe you'll say what happened was given years later. But a human being would say, wait a minute, if God spoke to my great-grandfather, I would have heard about that. What are you talking about? Especially if you understand the Jewish people, we have a lot of opinions. We don't take lightly to very critical in our thinking. So what happens is that the experience of Mount Sinai and the exodus of Egypt, that whole experience was experienced by entire nation as well as the entire world, really, because it says that when the and this is why most of the world does know this today. It means the Christians, the Muslims, that's billions of people, they all accept this. They'll accept this because it was a phenomenon that happened on a grand scale that is impossible to fake. It's like if I asked you, do you know there was a guy named Napoleon or Socrates? Yeah, I know Socrates, but you'll believe it because it was on a certain level that was on a grand scale. The people knew this. Certainly, when an entire nation heard God speak, I want you to understand this. This is, and I've said it many times, but it's the fundamental difference, a fundamental difference, not the, a fundamental difference between the Jewish, between the belief of the Jewish people and the righteous Noahides and everybody else. Every other religion all starts the same way. How does religion start? Guy comes along and says, God spoke to me. Now, prove it wrong. You can't. So therefore, if you want to make a claim that God spoke to you, you know that that's an irrefutable claim because nobody's in your head. So John Smith, when he came and said he had this vision, the founder of Mormonism. So in the beginning, he was persecuted. They chased him. He ran away. He was in St. Louis and made it to Utah. And then he got a following. But first they were like crazy. Oh, yeah. But then eventually he was able to convince people. And then more people accepted it. And every single religion that you will look at starts the same way. Because nobody wants to say, everyone wants to say God spoke to them because you can't disprove that because you're not in my head. Maybe sure it's not. I'm charismatic. I can convince you. But the claim you never want to make is that God spoke to you. Because if it didn't happen, you'll say, God didn't speak to me. So when the Torah says that God spoke and the whole nation heard. So if it didn't happen, when Moshe would have come and said, here's the Torah, we'd say, what are you talking about? You're not saying God spoke to you, you're saying he spoke to us. So therefore, the experience what happened in Egypt and the giving of Torah is a historical experience on a grand scale for an entire nation that cannot be falsified, and that's very different than everything else. Even for example, in various religions when they come along and say, "Oh, this guy made a miracle and he made this happen, that happened," and 100 people saw it. Well, where are these 100 people? Who are they? Let's interview them. Guy says, well, yeah, I saw it coming down from the sky and I had my six pack in the back of my car and I saw a UFO. Okay, good. You interview the guy, you do a little, cross interrogation. You realize this guy's not a reliable witness. So I tell you, a miracle is done for 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, but you don't know where they are. So it doesn't prove anything because I can say, it was the other guy. But the experience of the coming out of Egypt, which the entire Jewish nation experienced, and the world at large knew. So that was God's calling card to show that the principle we said, there's a creator. He's all powerful and he's involved in caring about the world. Now, the job in life is to go and to find and see God in the hidden aspects of your life. But that was a one-time experience. The biblical time is the time when God revealed himself. Now that you know that to be true, find it in your own lives. So when God says to Pharaoh, sends Moshe to Pharaoh and says, "Oh, let the Jews go." So Pharaoh is literally showing you the insanity of people. It's amazing. It's like God is doing these miracles, and he says to Moshe that Pharaoh is going to say no. And it's okay because it's going to be the way that God's going to reveal his miracles. But Pharaoh keeps thinking that he is the one who's determining the reality. He's stuck in his own illusion. It's literally what happens today. So therefore, what I say is that the situation of the hostage deal, I don't think is good. I understand the wanting of the people to get back their hostages, but it is discussed in the Talmud, and they really should discuss this with the sages and ask what should be done, because it could be endangering more people. But the reality is that I do believe and I do see the beauty in what's happening right now, that there's a renaissance, there's a change of heart from the insane policies that we've seen. But I'm never going to attribute that to President Trump. God should give him strength to do the right thing, or to anybody else, because God's running the show. And if you start to believe that it's because of this or because of that, then you got caught in the same problem that Pharaoh got caught in. Pharaoh got caught in the problem of, oh, he's asking me if they could leave. It must be up to me. And then he sees supernatural miracles. And then Moshe says, can we go yet? He says, oh, it's up to me. No, you can't go. Are you crazy? It's not up to you. But this is always what happens in life. What happens in life, that God makes his plan happen through the world of nature, and the fools believe it's you know, people say Mother Nature. Mother Nature. Who's does anyone hear of a mother named Nature? Who's Mother Nature? Does that mean? What does that mean, Mother Nature? But it's the terminology that people want to say. They don't want to say God. Oh, today you hear this one. This is a good one. The people have the universe. You hear this one? This is like the new term. Yeah, the universe. Okay, you don't have to call it God. You can call it if you want. But to understand that there is a plan and there is a director is our mission. So I'm very happy that we're about to, God willing, move into a new phase. I don't really, I'm not a big fan of what's happening right now with this approach. I think this is very bad. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but Hashem will protect us. That God willing, we'll see miracles with it. Okay, that was me starting out. Let me hear questions, ideas, comments on this, on the situations in the world, or on anything else.